Maintenant que vous avez bien
Now that
massé,
you've shed those
nous
extra
allons pouvoir
pounds, it's time to discuss stabilization.
la stabilisation.
Stabilization is where things get interesting, but you must never forget that this diet is not definitive.
Définitif. La stabilisation comporte deux volets.
Stabilization is a two-part process.
L'ordinaire.
The first part deals with your daily eating plan, and the second with managing diet slip-ups.
On revient sur la notion de régime équilibré.
The notion of a balanced diet is the basis of stabilization. Balance is when things do not change. You neither lose nor regain weight when you eat a well-balanced diet.
On ne doit pas reprendre du poids non plus. Dans la phase de maintien,
During the maintenance phase, I recommend that you separate carbohydrates and fats, or sugars and fats, on a daily basis. Sugar makes you gain weight, and so does fat, and that's why you separate them. If I had two troublesome students in my class, I'd separate them. You initially excluded fats and carbohydrates from your diet, and now you're reintroducing them. As long as you separate fats and carbohydrates, you will not gain back the weight you've lost.
le second volet,
The second part of the stabilization process focuses on managing diet slip-ups. If you had to stabilize your weight for life by eating only 3 little green peas and a green bean, you'd be very depressed and would never manage to stabilize your weight.
c'est la notion de plaisir.
The first notion that is reintroduced after you've completed this diet is the notion of pleasure. There can be no pleasure if there are no diet slip-ups. It's impossible to achieve long-lasting balance in life without pleasure.
Dans un travail, s'il n'y a pas de
You'd quit your job if you derived no pleasure from
on
it.
arrête. Dans un
You'd wonder what was wrong with your relationship if you derived no pleasure from it.
distinguer deux sortes d'écarts.
There are two types of diet slip-ups: minor slip-ups that are inconsequential and major slip-ups that must be dealt with.
La prise de poids,
Weight gain is the result of bad habits and not a one-time slip.
pas d'un écart ponctuel. Qu'est-ce qu'un petit écart? Un petit écart.
What is a minor slip-up? You could have a minor diet slip-up when you go to a movie, a play, or a concert, and have only an hour to grab a bite to eat.
Je ne dispose que d'une petite heure pour
You don't have enough time to go to a fine restaurant, so you go to a regular one.
économique, mais un restaurant ordinaire. Dans un
Which foods are unavoidable in restaurants? Fatty foods, because you're not the one doing the cooking. Which are easily avoidable? Sugar, bread, pasta, and dessert.
S'il y a un tout petit verre de vin,
It's okay for you to have a small glass of wine.
sentiment de
Since you did not load up on carbs and fats, this slip is a minor slip and you don't need to make up for it.
systématiquement cet écart. Par contre, une fois par semaine,
Contrast that with going to a fine restaurant once every week or two and ordering everything you want. You have a first course, perhaps some foie gras, and a main dish served in a sauce. As a matter of fact, you have the works: starchy foods, dessert, cheese, wine, and bread,
j'ai le droit, bien sûr.
because you have the right to.
J'ai fait un gros écart.
That's a major diet slip-up, and you can easily make up for it the next day by avoiding all sugar for that one day only. Your goal is not to lose weight, but to make up for your one meal overindulgence, because you want to prevent the fat from entering your fat
se
cells.
fixer. La graisse ne peut rentrer
Fat can only enter a fat cell and be stored in it if it has the key to open the cell's door. That little key is
C'est
insulin.
l'insuline.
Your pancreas secretes insulin only when you eat
N'est
sugar.
fabriqué que si je mange du sucre.
If you eat no sugar the day after your major diet slip-up, your pancreas will secrete very little insulin, and there will be nothing to open up the fat cells to let in the
Ne
fat.
sera pas fixé. Et malgré tout
You
ça,
might still gain 2 pounds the day after you ate a big meal, and that's very maddening. You think to yourself, I ate one meal and gained 2 pounds, and it'll take me a week to lose those 2 pounds. You also think it's so unfair that one meal made you gain 2 pounds. You conclude that the diet doesn't work because your weight is yo-yoing.
c'est pas un kilo
Don't
de
worry.
graisse.
You didn't gain 2 pounds of fat. Your body is unable to lose 2 pounds of fat in a day, and you can't gain 2 pounds of fat in a day either. Remember, 2 pounds of fat equal 9,000 calories, and women eat an average of 2,000 calories per day. How could you possibly eat the equivalent of 4 to 5 days of meals in just one meal? You can't. And even if you could, your body would be unable to assimilate all those calories.
Capable de le faire,
What do those 2 pounds of fat represent
il est
then?
tout ça.
They represent the weight of a big meal that you have not yet eliminated and the water your body has retained in order to digest it.
Et à la rétention d'eau.
When you eat a slice of ham or an egg, you don't drink a quart of water. However, when you eat a big meal, you drink a lot more liquid in order to digest it. Water is essential for digestion. Let's break down the weight of a big meal. The first course weighs 5 ounces and the meat dish 7 ounces. There's 12 ounces right there. Add to that the weight of the vegetables and starchy foods, which is another 7 ounces, and your meal's weight goes up to 19 ounces. You also have to include the weight of the bread, dessert, and liquids. When you add it all up, you see that it's normal to gain 2 pounds after a major diet detour. It's not the end of the world, because those 2 pounds are not 2 pounds of fat. All you have to do is go back on the protein diet for 1 day and avoid all fast and slow sugars. Eating is essential. It's one of life's most essential acts. Eating must be a conscious act. It must never be unconscious or automatic. Never fill up on cold foods while standing in the kitchen, because you'll never feel satisfied. Never eat while doing other things at the same time. Don't get yourself some food and then sit down and eat it in front of the television. Don't grab something to eat and then sit down at your computer. You'll end up going back for more food because you don't know how much you've eaten or what you've eaten. You ate automatically and unconsciously. If you're at a party or a reception where there are all kinds of tasty finger foods, you could eat up to 15 or 20 canapés or petit fours. Afterwards, you wonder if you should have dinner because you feel like you haven't eaten at all. A meal is a very special moment.
Le repas est un temps privilégié de notre vie.